So, Matt, on the road, tell me, what's the number one seller? Is it the Moby Dick saga?
No, actually, it's this right here, Jesus Christ Demon Slayer. Yeah, no matter what new thing I come up with, this is the one when I'm on conventions. Most people gravitate to this book. They're either religious or they really, really like Aquaman. The conversations that I often have, I have to tell people like, we did that cover years before Aquaman came out, so Jason Momoa wasn't even called Drogo when that comic was done. But that gets people's attention because, for I suppose it should be obvious, we have a muscled up Jesus holding a flaming sword. Um, but I often tell them like there was a whole bunch of research that went into this, as schlocky as the whole thing looks. It's based on the legend of the harrowing of hell, which is like, where did Jesus go between the time that he died on the cross and then rose from the grave? And there are so many different theories. I chatted with, I think, four different ministers from three different denominations, and the common consensus was there is no consensus. So to me, that just said, well, I can take whatever creative liberties I want to with this story and have a whole lot of fun. So that's what I did, and it's three issues of Jesus with a flaming sword hacking up demons and monsters and devils, and it's a great time. And yeah, every single convention I go to, no matter what else people pick up from my table, at some point their eyes drift over to Jesus and they want to ask me about it.
Now, have you thought about collecting the three issues and making them into a Kickstarter for a graphic novel? Because that's what all the cool kids are doing, collecting graphic novels these days.
I have thought about it, no doubt about it. I've thought about it. It's just finding the resources and funds to do it. Um, yeah, that's I've thought about it. I'd love to give a better, more thoughtful answer, but that's the extent of it.
That makes total sense. Now, is there a sequel? Could he have possibly time traveled to the future and done something, or is it three and done?
At the moment it's three and done. But the fun thing about comics, the only thing they hate more than anything is closure. So, there's always a doorway open that we could revisit this somehow, I guess. The tricky part is, though, that I wouldn't have any sort of actual scriptural text to base it on, because as absurd as it sounds, I researched a whole lot of different scripture for this to do the story, and there wouldn't really be any afterwards. The only thought that I've had would have been to go back to look up more into, I think it's called Paradise Lost, about getting cast out of Eden. Maybe I could do a prequel, but I haven't explored that very far.
Now, I'm learning a lot about you today, too, because you apparently have something to do with games. Could you explain that?
Yeah, sure. That was for a Pinnacle Entertainment Group. They invited me to do a couple of their role RPG campaigns, and part of what really appealed to me was that it was not your typical Dungeons and Dragons stuff. Nothing against Dungeons and Dragons. I love Stranger Things. Want to put that out there. Absolutely love that series, and I love the Dungeons and Dragons stuff with it. But this one was something different. So it's like all these campaigns, everything except wizards and war and dragons and monsters like that. So it's very horror based. So of course, anybody who knows the work I do can appreciate why that one got my attention. So yeah, they invited me to do for their Savage Tales of Horror campaigns, and the probably one of the coolest ones was Isle of Death, which is like a combination of a scene from the Heavy Metal magazine movie and World War II and like old video games like Wolfenstein 3D. The campaign is like you're part of this team of soldiers who crash lands in World War II on this island that is inhabited by this Nazi scientists creating all these different genetic monstrosities and zombie soldiers, and like you have to fight your way through it to escape. And it was a whole lot of fun coming up with that concept. The tricky part was keeping down all the rules and all the different things with dice, because I was used to it was completely different from what I did know with Dungeons and Dragons, and my Dungeons and Dragons knowledge was already pretty limited.
And not just that, but you're a novelist as well?
Yes, it. I think we talked about this a little bit. That why do we write? Because we can't do anything else. So I've got a handful of novels to my credit. The one we have there is Elijah, with a fresh new cover that I designed myself. I'm rather proud of this, that I'm able to do this myself now. Elijah is the story of a guy who has the power to heal anybody he touches. This was something that was important to me when I first started. There are so many like just badass heroes out there who like shoot up everything in sight, and I wanted a hero who was a healer. That's his one and only thing, is that he touches people, he heals them. There is no uh trade-off to it, and like he doesn't heal one and somebody else gets sick, he can just heal them. So it's very, I guess you could say, going back to scriptural in that sense. But in this story, our hero who can heal people, Elijah, wanders into this town that's ruled over by a single church and a single pastor who is just not having it. There's something wrong. This guy should not have this ability. Not only that, but it challenges his authority. So yeah, and shenanigans ensue.
And you're a reporter.
And what? Sorry.
You are a reporter as well.
Yes. No longer full time, but yeah, I was a reporter in a small town for 10 years. And I even launched a podcast all about those experiences, because small town reporters have, we got some unique stories to tell on the forefront of history, as an editor said, right there to see it all happening. And with small towns, sometimes that history is kind of odd. Like I was once with on a riding on a with the sheriff on a manhunt that went all over the county, and it ended because the guy tried to hitch a ride with an Amish cart, and they pulled over an Amish buggy and arrested the guy.
I'll be honest with you. When I prepared for this interview, I had known you from your Moby Dick fame. And it's always so hard not to make a joke, but we're going to be nice. It's going to be a family-friendly event. But all this was found at your website, mattschorr.net. Am I saying that right?
Close. It's Matt Schorr.
Sure. There we go. And that's MATTSCHORR.net. And that's the place where you can see all the stuff. This, man, it just blows me away how long I've known you, and I didn't know all these things